Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today let's go over a medium level question that I just solved on my own. So I'm super happy about this and I'm very glad that I was able to come up with my own solution to this question without any assistance. So let's go over it and let me show you how I did it. So this is question 2241, design an ATM machine. So basically you're given 5 different dollar amounts, 20, 50, 100, 200 and 500, and you start with an empty machine, and basically you want to withdraw this amount and try to return how many 20s, 50s, 100s, 200s, 500s you use to make this amount, and also basically try to deposit 20s, 50s, 100, 200s, 100s using this list. This is going to be the frequency in the position in the original array, and then do exactly that and see if you can make 0. If you can't basically make the amount, then return -1. If you can, then return however many it took for each dollar amount. Okay, so let's do that. So first of all, let's go ahead and set these dollar amounts. Self.options, let's call that 100, 200, 500. So just getting the positions from smallest to greatest. So we call this self.options, and basically now we want to count how many of 20s we get, 50s we get, 100s, 200s, 500s. So let's call this default dictive type integer. Cool. So now if we print banknotes count, and let's just return -1 here as a placeholder. So this basically tells you how many 20s you get, how many 50s you get, how many 100s, 200s, 500s. So let's just go through this array from left to right because it's already in the same order as it says right here in that order: 20, 50, 100, 200, 500. So basically self.c of the current value, right? That's the key. And then we're going to add the frequency, which is banknotes count of I. Okay, cool. So now that we've recorded that frequency, we're trying to withdraw an amount. So let's print amount. Okay, self.options of I. So, okay, so now for this amount, we're trying to see, can we make it or not? And again, we're trying to use the biggest values as possible from the biggest to the smallest. So since this is already in order, let's go from right to left instead of left to right usually. Okay, so let's just say for I in range length options, -1, -1, -1. So that's going to try the biggest ones first. And let's say we're trying 500 first, which we're always going to do if it exists. So if options of I is in our dictionary, because we're going to reflect the changes, the bills that we used in our dictionary, we're going to add them here, and then we're going to withdraw them here. So in that case, how many 500s make a 600? Only one, right? So we're going to get the remainder. We're going to get the amount divided by that number. So let's call this div is going to be amount divided by self dot, or divided by options of I, because that's 600 divided by 500, floor division. It's going to give you 1, right? So let's print div self.options, and here as well. Okay, so you can see that's 1. So basically, if we can do that, then we're going to use it. If you can't divide this by that, then as long as this amount is still bigger than the current value, we can still use it somehow, right? So let's do this first, and we're just going to say self.c self.options of I minus equal to div, and then first we're just going to subtract from the amount self.options of I. So how, let's say 20, let's say we want to use 1/500, which is just going to be div. That's the frequency, that's the value. And then we're going to decrement this from the dictionary, and then we're going to say if self.c self.options of I is less than or equal to 0, then just delete it. Cool. So all right, so then we can do that. And also we're going to want to create an answer, which is 0 times the length of self.options, same 5 bills, how many we're going to use for this case. So it's basically like a clone of this, starting with 0, saying we used 150 or we used 1/500. And that's only going to be applicable if we can make exactly amount as it says here. If we can't, then we're not going to withdraw any banknotes. So let's make a copy of this and use a deep copy of self.answer to create a snapshot of this in case in the end. So at the end, if amount is still bigger than 0, then we're going to revert our or we're going to make a copy of our dictionary. We're going to say self.c is copy, return -1. Otherwise, just return answer, because answer is how many of each dollar amount that we used to make that amount. And then obviously we have to add div to say we use that many bills of however, whatever that bill is, 50, 20, 100, we use that much more of that bills. We use one more 500. So let's run this. Okay, run this. Okay, wrong answer. So let's see what's going on. So if the div is less than or equal to self.c of self.options of I, because we actually have to have that many in there, then we can actually go ahead and do the operation. Okay, so we're returning a list, not just -1, because if we don't even have that many of 20s or 50s, then we can't even do it. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, submit it. Okay, so the other thing that I talked about was if we can't divide, right? So otherwise, if we can still use it, so if amount is still bigger than or equal to self.options of I, then we're going to use everything that we have, right? So basically, let's say we have 600, or let's say we have 1100 and then 500, and for some reason we can't divide this by that, but we can still use it because amount is still bigger than or equal to this. Then we're just going to use everything that we have. So okay, so self.options of I times self.c self.options of I, because that's everything that we have. Then we're just going to subtract self.options of I, however many, we're going to give them all the 500s that we have, times self.c self.options of I, and then obviously self.answer, or just answer of I, we're going to add self.c self.options of I before we just delete it from the dictionary, because we're using it. We don't have any 500s anymore. We don't need 500 as the key anymore. And okay, let's go ahead and run this again with this test case. Let's run this. Okay, it's still not correct. So if amount minus this is bigger than or equal to 0. Huh, okay, that's wrong. Let's see here. Let's say and amount is bigger than self.options of I. Or let's go ahead and do that here, because this still has to be, we still have to have at least one $500 bill, right? Okay, yeah, there we go. So again, if we don't have a 20 or a 200, we can't even do this, right? Okay, let's submit it. And there you go. Passes all test cases. So again, I'm super happy that I was able to come up with my own solution to this question without any assistance and solve it completely on my own. So that's it for this video, and thank you for watching.